Hey everyone, welcome back in. It's another episode of Bleav in Vikings and Bleav in Rams. We have a collaboration episode. I'm happy to be joined by Aaron Coscarelli and Tyler Dragon, the hosts of Bleav in Rams. Going to bring them in a moment, but a couple of things to take care of. First, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here, and today's Bleav in Vikings and Bleav in Rams starts right now. This one is for Thursday, January 9th. Now, the three of us are recording on the evening of January 8th for logistical reasons. And I think, guys, we need to start out by addressing the wildfires and the circumstances surrounding Southern California, which is where both of you are right now. And I know everyone's dealing with personal things, with safety and family. And so thoughts and prayers to everyone. It makes a playoff game, which is of the utmost importance, feel rather trivial. So I hope everything is okay for you guys and family.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It is scary. It's hard to talk about football right now. My family was evacuated. They're close to the Eaton Canyon fire. But yeah, my thoughts to everybody right now being affected. The air quality is terrible. Tyler, also in Southern California experiencing, I mean, it looks like the apocalypse. It's, we couldn't see the sun. It's very dark, lots of ash everywhere. And my thoughts are with those. I have people and friends personally that have lost houses. So, but we must, show must go on and hopefully give people actually something to get their minds off of things. And like you mentioned, a big playoff football game on Monday against the Vikings and the Rams. And we're certainly excited to see this rematch.
Yeah. How you doing, Tyler?
Yeah, you two said it best. I mean, I'm just praying for everybody that's been affected by these wildfires. It's crazy times out here. And hopefully this show can kind of get people's mind off it, especially in Southern California. But, it's definitely difficult times for everybody. Luckily, my family hasn't been affected in large part. I mean, there's a lot of winds going on right now. Besides the fires, it makes it dangerous even driving. But, I mean, that's just secondary compared to all the fires going on. So I just want to extend my thoughts and prayers to everybody that's been affected by the fires.
And the other thing that's very interesting is there's talk about the game potentially getting moved in the event. I'm not saying that there's talk, but certainly that conversation's been brought up. So we'll see what'll happen. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, the speculation will continue about that until a decision is made. I would think, would Arizona be the logical place, or maybe Vegas? What I don't know what you guys are hearing.
So the NFL did release a statement that they're monitoring the situation. And nothing has been decided as of the time of this podcast. But yeah, I do agree with you. The logical two places would be Las Vegas or Arizona. Those are two stadiums, dome stadiums. So, I mean, it's an easy transition. Both of those teams aren't in the playoffs, so the field is free of use. There's no Beyonce concert, Taylor Swift, or Kendrick Lamar, or anybody. So that would be the most logical place, I would think.
Well, time will determine that. Let's deal with what we know is concrete, and that's the Vikings and the Rams matching up against one another for the second time this season. I think, you guys, it's a non-divisional matchup, but for me, it's got a kind of a divisional feel with O'Connell and McVay, with the Vikings going against Matthew Stafford, and the fact that these two teams met earlier in the week. And you know what it's like to prepare for all these games. When you're preparing for a divisional game or a familiar opponent, it's got a different feel than a team you play once every 3-4 years, right? And I think it's got that familiar feel to it. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, yeah, no, it does. Look, there's a lot of flavor here. There's a lot of familiarity, a lot of ripe storylines on the line. I'm sure the Vikings want to exact revenge against the Rams. And it's just interesting, right? We're facing a 14-win wildcard team. That's never happened in NFL history. And just so many things have happened this season, specifically for the Rams, but you can say exactly the same thing about the Vikings this season and what Kevin O'Connell has done. We talk week in and week out, me and Tyler, during our postgame show about Sean McVay being potential candidate for Coach of the Year, but Kevin deserves that nod too. You guys have been through it.
Yeah, you're right. There's so many, like the Coach of the Year thing to me is so interesting because you got to pick someone and then make a case for him. And you almost are like throwing darts at the other there's a few of them that deserve it. You know what I mean? I mean, getting the Rams to the playoffs is one heck of a coaching job. What Dan Campbell did is one heck of a coaching job. Andy Reid, how can you? So I think there's a lot of deserving candidates. I look at the Lions guys. We're not going to make this about the Lions, but I think Brad Holmes, the GM, deserves some recognition for what he has built up for depth there. So when you get to this stage of the season, a lot of people are doing a lot of things right. And the Vikings and the Rams are no exception there. The Vikings have to correct a lot of things off of that loss to the Detroit Lions. One thing that's interesting, and Tyler, I'll give the floor to you on this one. And you let me know if you think this is relevant or not. But, the Vikings are going, pedal to the metal all the way through last week. And the Rams, it looked from afar like the Rams took a little bit of a breather last week. So I think that's an interesting contrast for these two clubs. And I don't think one approach is better than the other. The circumstances dictated what they had to do. But you certainly have two teams that were operating at different speeds last week.
Well, yeah, the Rams had the luxury to take a breather because they won the strength of victory tiebreaker over the Seahawks. So that game last week was essentially meaningless, regardless if they won or lost, as opposed to the Vikings Alliance. That game was for the division title and the number 1 overall seed. So if the situation was flipped, Sean McVay and the Rams definitely would have played their starters. However, the Rams did suffer injury in that game, and Blake Corum, their second string running back, and he's suffered season-ending injury, so he won't be available. So that's kind of why Sean McVay elects not to play his starters when there's a meaningless game, and he's shown in the past that that's proven to be effective. I mean, you look at coaches across the league who have done that, the Andy Reids of the world and so on. I mean, these are Super Bowl winning head coaches. So it's hard to knock that decision. It's just the Vikings weren't afforded that luxury because they were playing for a division title in NFC North.
Yeah. And I talked about this. I think I talked about it on my Instagram, as a matter of fact, where, people were frustrated, of course, that the Rams didn't play their starters, hindsight, 2020, or however that saying goes. But everybody thinks McVay's a genius. And then, let's say he put somebody in to get an injury. Like Tyler said, we lost Blake Corum to a fractured forearm, I believe. But them dropping to the 4 seed with their loss to Seattle and the Bucs winning, I believe, as I said on Instagram, that I think the 4 seed ended up being a better fit for them, because going up against a mobile quarterback like the rookie in Washington, that's not been the Rams' strong suit. They haven't done well when it comes to mobile quarterbacks, a la, all of their highest scoring games, points allowed, were against mobile quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. So going up against Sam Darnold, I think it's a good fit for the Rams and their defense. And like you guys just had to see, they took a beating against the Lions this weekend. So the extra rest and the Rams playing on Monday, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if the momentum works in their favor, if they needed the rest. And that was what both teams really struggled with early in the season, were injuries. And now the back end down the stretch, the Rams didn't have to deal with that like other teams. So prime time, I'm excited. Monday's going to be very, very interesting to see where these teams are at. And here's my question for you. How is this team, Mike, different than week 8? Because I think the Rams are a different team week 8. How do you see that?
I see the Vikings as a sort of from an intangible standpoint, as a mentally tougher team. They went through some adversity at that point in the season, and the Rams game was kind of the tip of the spear. They lost to the Rams and the Lions in back-to-back weeks. and then went through a poor stretch of play against the Titans and the Jaguars, which they won those 2 games, but they didn't play very well. And there was noise on the outside about Sam Darnold. Did the wheels fall off? Is the magical season over? They get through that, and then they started playing extremely well after that and finished with, I think it was nine straight wins before the loss to the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you go through that, when you go through success and then you go through a couple of tough games or a month of rough games, and then they say the wheels are falling off, it was too good to be true. You get out of that and then you get back to playing well. I think it makes you, calloused a little bit and tougher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the Vikings are a tougher team and they have belief in themselves. That's an intangible difference for them. In terms of like what we see on the field, I think the Vikings defense has become a really fine-tuned, well-oiled machine with Brian Flores, and they look one way pre-snap, and post-snap they look completely different. And I think everyone's on the same page. They had a lot of new starters this season in their first year with the Vikings, and now I kind of think they're rolling a little bit. And I know they gave up a lot of points to the Lions last week, so you might think I'm crazy, but the offense didn't pull its weight last week and put the defense on the field a ton. And at halftime, the Lions had 10 points. It was a 10-7 game, 10-6 game at half. So I think the defense was playing pretty well. So I'm very excited to see them go against this Rams offense, which is very impressive and had a very good game against this defense a couple of months ago.
My biggest question is psychologically for the Vikings, though. I mean, that was probably their worst loss of the season. Would you agree? So
yes. Mm-hmm.
It's your worst loss of the season. And now you are pretty much starting a new season with all the pressure on the line, win or go home situation. So you want everybody talks about entering the playoffs with momentum. That is real, because you want your confidence to be at an all-time high, especially when pressure compact situations. So going into the postseason on the heels of your worst loss of the season, you pretty much had a no-show in the second half. And defensively, too, they had a no-show in the second half. The offense didn't get together. How are you going to bounce back from that? How is Justin Jefferson going to bounce back from only a 3-catch, 50-yard
It was his worst game of the season.
Yeah. So all of that psychologically, how are you going to bounce back? Because sports is a whole lot of mentally. It's a lot of mentally. And so going on the road in a hostile environment, in a place that you already lost earlier in week 8, how are you going to handle that as a Vikings team?
Yep. I think that's a key question in the game.
Great question.
I think that's the key question on Minnesota's side is can Kevin O'Connell cultivate an environment where the team bounces back from that type of loss? And I think bounce backs even have to happen after wins. I remember the Minneapolis Miracle, which I was an employee of the club at that time. That was such an emotional win for the Vikings. They go to Lincoln Financial Field and play the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC title game a week later. And I think we were drained. I think we were drained emotionally. So whether you're coming off a dramatic win or a brutal loss, you need to find ways to bounce back and to get up for the next game. And I do think that's a significant challenge for the Vikings. What would lead me to have confidence in Kevin O'Connell's ability to create the environment for success with that being the backdrop is what I mentioned earlier, going through that adversity in the middle of the season. And Sam Darnold's just career arc. I mean, how about being a number 3 overall pick, flaming out in with the New York Jets, being cast off to the Carolina Panthers? They give up on you, go across the country to say, and now here he is playing the best ball of his career. So I think he's mentally tough enough to bounce back. But these are all thoughts and what I think. We're going to find out on Monday night, when the action gets real. And so, but I think, Tyler, you hit the nail on the head on the Viking side. That's the key question. One thing I'm wondering about, and we're going to get out of here after this one, on the Rams side is I wonder if they sit back, you guys, because I see some similarities positively in the way the Rams play defensively and the way the Lions do. I wonder if the Rams say, wow, that really worked what Aaron Glenn did. We're going to do that. Or if the Rams just stay true to what they do and go with the plan they would have had regardless of what happened against the Lions. Because I thought the Lions were very aggressive in their pressure schemes and I thought it threw Sam Darnold off a little bit.
Yeah, I think it'll be a combination of both. The Rams have really done a really good job of getting pressure with their front four. Even though they pretty much play a 3-4 defense, they send forward pretty much for the most part. And they've done an excellent job of that. Now they blitz pretty much on average compared to all the NFL teams. So, but I do not think that they're going to really mimic what the Lions did. The Lions were just blitz happy and made Sam Darnold try to get into completing a one-on-one coverage. There was little zone play in that game. So I do believe that there'll be a lot of man-to-man coverage on the outside, but the Rams are pretty much going to stick with their basic defense and then rush 3, sometimes rush 4. I don't imagine a blitz-heavy package from LA.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to put a little button on it, I think the Rams have the blueprint for how to beat the Vikings. And much like you said, Mike, I think the Vikings have had to deal with their fair share of adversity, and so have the Rams. Both teams are entering this wild card matchup since week 8, a grittier team having to win in so many different ways. My biggest concern, and I've mentioned this with Tyler on our post-game Bleav in Rams episode, is the offense just continues to start slow. And I just don't see how in postseason football that collects wins. So I'm looking to see the Rams match their production that they did week 8. I want to say Puka and Cooper, combined for a total of 12 catches and 157 yards. And I think even Kyron had 97 yards rushing on the day. So start fast so they don't have to play catch up. And since they've already figured out how to beat Kevin O'Connell, I don't think even Sean, I want to say, is this the third matchup between the two coaches? If you guys remember,
I do believe that. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't think Kevin O'Connell's ever beat Sean McVay. So he's coming back to LA with some, bulletin board material, in wanting a revenge game against Sean McVay. And it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I want to say you read your Bet Online read. I want to say, are the Rams 2-point underdogs? We'll have to look into that, but I think it's
it was 1.5, Aaron, at one point. I don't know what it currently is right now, but at home playoff game, and
at home, they're the higher seed, and yet they're still the underdog. I mean, those wins help. 14-win team coming to town helps.
I'm sure you guys will have more episodes this week, and you'll author some predictions and share them at that point. I think the Vikings need 28 points to win the game, at least. I think it's 4 touchdowns for them. If they don't get to that point, they're not going to win. So to me, the key for Minnesota would be offensive efficiency and scoring 28.
I think that's a fair point. That's a fair point. The Vikings haven't been great in the red zone as of late. They were 0-4 against the Lions, and they had a lot of penalties when they played the Rams last time. So clean up those issues, be more efficient in the red zone. I mean, don't be too efficient because we're still a Rams show. But I think we're going to see a good game. I think we're going to see a shootout.
Me too.
You can tell who's Rams, who's the Aaron's picking in this game. Rams. Actually, Rams fans are going to hate me because I picked Vikings to win this game.
Really?
24.
Okay.
Was my score prediction.
Yeah.
I just see it playing out a little bit different than week 8, but that's why they play the games.
That is why they play the games, and maybe we will all connect afterwards so we can debrief with each other. And again, we'll get you out of here on this, but thoughts and prayers to everyone in Southern California. I hope everyone gets out of there okay, and hopefully the football game can be a distraction on Monday.
Yeah. 100%. Mike, thank you so much for having us.
Right.
Hopefully a good game. And like you said, yes, a much needed distraction from everybody here in SoCal. And for you guys listening, please be safe. We appreciate you guys. But it's a scary time right now for sure.
Yeah, it is. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
On behalf of Aaron and Tyler, this is Mike signing off for now. Until next time, whether you're a Vikings fan or a Rams fan, everybody keep believing.